5:45 on a Tuesday night. My name is Amelie, and I am your host of the Celestic Intelligence Podcast, which you are tuning into right now, and I'm so grateful for that. Pretty soon, I'm going to hire somebody. So, if you guys are watching this and you are a human and you have the ability, maybe you have like a page or something like that, where you can show me like, okay, yeah, I've uploaded my stuff. Really, I'd like to upload it onto my website so that you guys have audio files of all of my podcasts that I've done in order, and maybe even trim them up and add some better introductions than the ones that I do. I don't know. We'll see how fancy I get. I really like it raw. I really like it authentic. I really like it just the way that it comes to you, because there's just not very much of that going on. I was putting some coconut oil on earlier. But there's just really not a lot of that like authenticity that's going to be continuing. A lot of people are moving to AI. They're moving to that that idea of this is how we do tech. And I do integrate AI into some of the things that I do. However, I don't want the way that I'm presenting my information to be just AI. This is real person. You can see all my wrinkles. I'm like a real human. I don't use filters because I think that there's going to be a need for it. And I think I mentioned this a couple streams ago, and I've talked to some people on the side, and I was like, there is going to be a demand for apps that have no AI interaction whatsoever. It's all blocked. People can't post anything that's AI, that's written AI. It all has to be human only, and they have to, adhere to those standards. I think that there is going to be a huge demand for that, like coming up. Anyways, so yeah, I am so grateful for you guys to be here today. It's episode. Hi, hi, son or daughter. I don't know if you're a son or daughter. My children are 13 and 20, so chances are a lot of the alphas and the zoomers could be my children. Solar Moon, welcome. Love that you're here. I love your little picture, your thumbnail picture. It's cute. Okay. Well, today I've called today the end of the road, and if you watched my fireside chat that I did yesterday, I was, teaching on teamwork and collaboration, and I was kind of talking about what got me into this area. I have no parents, mom. Oh my gosh, that's, you know, Samir, there was a couple weeks ago where I was thinking about how there were so many orphan stories in children in like classical literature, and where did they come from, where did they go, and there's really not a lot of information about it, so I know you're being silly. But it's just an interesting thing for me, especially since like Nick Fuentes was saying he's a test tube baby. It really made me like start to think like, okay, I remember when I in the 90s when it was being talked about. I was like probably your age. I don't even know how old you are, but people were talking about being brainwashed and test tube babies, and that was like first grade, second grade. Yeah, I know. I've done my time. Okay. So today's called The End of the Road. And if you were catching my discussion yesterday, you'll know that, I was talking about how a lot of the topics that I've done for my episodes have been the like around death, around grief, around collapse, because seriously, that is pretty much the theme of the last 5 years, maybe not five, 4 years at least. It has been a heavy theme in my life where, my grandfather died in 21. My mother died in at the end of 23, 20 to beginning of 24. My uncle just died in August, and I've left relationships. I left a relationship of almost 10 years. I've had to cut people out of my life that were, I was connected to them with nostalgia or because there was a history. And, I had to cut those relationships out of my sphere. I had to cut them out of my energy field because even though there was this understanding, this connection that I had with those people, I love them dearly. They were very much integral into my life and how I was growing up. Mike's here. What's going on? I missed some. I'm a new YouTube tutor. Is it good or not? YouTube. Um, it's however you want it to be. It really is. It's whatever energy you want it to be. You adopt me, mom? I don't know. How old are you? David Pickett, hello. What's going on? El Angel says, I'm gay. Okay, I consider myself to be very happy, so thank you. I have your phone number. Oh my gosh, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to, what do they call it? Dox me? Oh, thank you. WTF. All right. So, the there's been a lot of collapse. There's been a lot of personal breakdown of where even egoically there's been huge severe deaths. And this year in particular, so every year I name it a year of whatever. And I have a community, and we all kind of like agree to name it a year of, whatever the thing is. So a lot of people wanted it to be the year of service. I was like, no, this is something in my body is telling me it's the year of refinement. Little did I know what that meant in December when I'm like naming it. I think maybe even November last year, I was like, oh, it's definitely going to be a year of refinement next year. I don't remember what we had named the year before. And so, as I'm thinking about, I'm like, let 2026 be the year of connection, of like real, true connection with people where it's it's not me just like isolating and refining and like burning away all of this ego. Let it be a year of connection where I go and meet new people and reconnect with the people that, I love, because I love traveling. I love going and meeting people in divine appointments. WTF, you're gay. OF, no. Hi, Diva. What's going on, potato connoisseur? What kind of potatoes do you like? So, this last year has been a pretty interesting one. And then, even more so, like, people have been, I haven't really talked a lot about it, and I don't know how much I really truly want to get into it, but there's been a lot of talk about these, and it comes in these cycles. It's usually in September or in May where there would be like, it's the end times, the rapture is happening at this time. And it's really interesting that they pick these, months to have these end times. And so I'm like, okay, I didn't even know it was going on because I've been so involved in like finishing up these cycles in my own life. Like there are end times that are happening. I named this episode the end of the road for a reason because we are at the end of something. In fact, I often reflect on the Mayan calendar. It's like this, the face, and it's like the Mayan calendar ends in 2012. Well, the interesting thing about 2012 is there was a lot of things that did happen during that time. And, yesterday I was explaining that when you have these changes, when there's conjunctions that happen in the in the celestial bodies, like, I think it was 2020 or 2021, there was like, it was called the Great Conjunction. And everyone's like, it's the Great Conjunction. And they're like, let's all go look at the Great Conjunction. And, that they're like, oh my gosh, all these XYZ is going to happen. And, blah, 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 blah. It's like going to be so crazy. And they just kind of get you hyped up. And you're like, oh my gosh, is a meteor going to fall out of the sky? And like, is it going to be crazy? Like, are we going to like have contact with aliens? What's the big hurrah? What is the big ordeal? What is going to happen? And, the day came and went. It was like December 21st, 2021, the Great Conjunction. It was like, this hasn't happened since the time of Jesus and all this stuff. And so, sure enough, that day came and went, and nothing really truly happened. There was no physical effect that we could feel. However, to give a little bit of credit, I do think that there are things that happen as these celestial bodies move through the night sky, or even, the day sky, whatever. That there is some sort of influence that is happening with those movements, with the conjunctions. It does have some effect on us. Just like the moon has an effect on us. They call you a lunatic if you have that like lunar connection. You can be really sensitive. A big part of it, what I think it might be, is you might have parasites, because parasites, you've got to clean your body out. You've got to have these cleanses. You've got to fast. And we just, at least in America, I don't think it's like as high of priority in the American Medical Association. Allegedly, I don't know what their protocols are on that, but at no point in time have I ever heard a doctor in my life, as I was getting, the classic American medical prescription of, go do a parasite cleanse, go do a heavy metal cleanse, go do this cleanse, go do that cleanse. Like, they don't talk about that. They're just like, here's a prescription for this or whatever it is. So the celestial bodies do have something to do with you. All right. Potato connoisseur is not going to give me their favorite, but I'll confess my favorite potato is a hash brown. There's something great about a diner hash brown that just makes me feel really comfy. Although I love any potato, for real. So when we're looking at the end of the road, it's really this end of a timeline. Now imagine you're just kind of going on this timeline, and then you've got to make a decision if you're going to jump up into the next timeline or not. Home fries? Yeah, home fries are good. Good morning, Munib. Good to see you. Tommy's back. I love Mrs. Potato. Mrs. Potato, for sure. As we're looking at, we're kind of nearing the end of this year, and it's going to happen really quickly. October is going to go by really fast. And then the next thing you know, you have these events, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and, whatever other holidays that you're celebrating at that time. It just goes by really quickly. And then the next thing you know, it's going to be 2026. Munib's here. I enjoy listening to you. Thank you. I had a really nice compliment. My friend is really, really busy, but I had a one-on-one with him. I did a Celestic profile for him, and he gave me the sweetest compliment. He's like, I've been listening to your episodes, your podcast episodes, and he's like, it really has helped me communicate better with my daughter and my wife. Like, he's like, it has given me so much understanding in my relationship with them, that there is value here. So I really appreciate everybody that comes on. I love all the people that sub and just support me with thumbs ups and everything like that. So thank you guys so much for doing that. I appreciate it. And I really do enjoy the compliment as well, Tommy. So thank you. All right, where was I? I do want to keep up with the chat, but I'm trying to do like a little bit more ask me anything with the podcast instead of just straight up talking to you guys for X number of time. But I also want to bring in a teaching as well. So, with all of the things that, as I look at my laundry list, it's seriously this really hefty laundry list of things that I have had to endure. And, a lot of them I'm not going to say. But a couple weeks ago, I think it was on the 22nd of September, or 23rd, there was all these evangelists. They were like, it's going to be the end times. The rapture is happening on this date. So you need to give me all your money because it's not even going to matter to you because you're going to get raptured and, you know, hopium, dopamine hit, whatever the comfort. I think it's oxytocin is the love. They're like, oh my gosh, Jesus is coming, going to take us. And, with that being said, early on, so, I was talking about that 2012 event. So in 2011, there was another situation. So let me back up. Back when I was like 16, 17, I was struggling a lot because I did not have a father and nobody really was directing me. And so I was felt very lost, and so that's normal. Hi, Munib. That's a lot of characters that I don't understand what they are. It's like webdings or what is it? Anyhow, so I was doing a lot of partying, but then there was also this part of me that wanted to like be comforted. And I remember I was going from like church to church, and I settled on a church, and then I had to leave it. I really enjoyed it. And then I had to leave it, and I went to another church, which was like, in the same denomination. And I was like, I really feel chaotic inside. Like I cannot calm myself down. What do I do? Like I feel like I'm going to go to hell. And the they could not answer the spiritual issue that I was having. So me being a complete DIY, complete millennial, I'm like, well, I'm going to go and start reading. I'm going to read everything that I can in order to. Maybe he's trying to match the flowers on your wall. Oh, that's sweet. Coffee, tea. What? Why is that really? What do you mean, Rick? So anyhow, I'm like, dude, I don't think that I'm saved. I feel like I'm going to go to hell. And so I'm telling the preacher and his wife this in a closed door meeting, and they're like, you know, we you just say the words. I'm like, okay, but I said the words and it didn't do anything. What else do I do? Like, I feel, very chaotic and conflicted, and that, I'm bad. And I just had all of this negativity just piling up. And so obviously, like, drinking and using drugs was a way to escape that, and they couldn't like give me any peace, any solace of, this is the direction that you need to go. And maybe that wasn't the way that I should have done it. What, are you kidding me? Really? Yeah, it really happened. I was like 17 or 18 years old. Many moons ago. Hi, Jane. Welcome. All right. So I started listening to this radio station, and it was called Family Radio. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it or listened to it before, but I started listening to it. And so it was very wholesome, very traditional, lots of beautiful music, King James Bible only stories, and just a lot of different teachings. I learned a lot from it. However, there was an open forum where the president, his name was Harold Camping, he came on and he had predicted previously in September of 1993 that there would be a rapture. And he was highly convinced that it was going to be on this date and that the rapture would happen. And so everyone, had agreed with him. And, obviously that day came and went, nothing happened. And then he was like, I was wrong in the numbers. It's going to be on this day. And the the thing about the message that was happening was, one, there was a 4 hour forum Monday through Friday where people would call in and ask questions. And so, most of the time I'm just like passively listening to the radio station because there was a lot of comfort in it. It was a very polarizing event. Yeah, thanks, Rick. Jane says, that's exactly why I felt failed by the church. No one can explain the pain, the feeling of complete isolation from people around me. Man, isolation is worse. It's isolation is like smoking 15 cigarettes a day. They've estimated. And there's a lot of other things about isolation. I've been writing about it in my book, which is launching next, is it next week already? I've been writing in my book about isolation, and it's given me a lot of clarity around why did I feel that way, because obviously that was a huge reason for me to address some spiritual things that were going on. It's been a lifelong, like 20, how old am I? 42. I'll be 42 next month. Gosh, what's that? 22 years? 20, no more, 24 years that I've been like searching for that comfort and that peace. And I finally feel good. But anyhow, so this radio station, it's like on one end, it's so wholesome, it's so comforting, it's so peaceful, the old hymnals, and it's beautiful music. Beautiful music, really wholesome stories, very family oriented. And then, but you also had this like poison of there's going to be a rapture. If you're not saved, you're not chosen, and you're going to be left behind. You're excluded. And this is terrible for people that are in isolation or are feeling excluded or that they don't belong, which is a huge reason why the book that I've been writing has been this big passion project. Well, anyhow, so May 21st, 2011 was going to be the day of the rapture. And I remember being terrified when that day was coming up. I was like, you know, May 20th, 2011, I was like, I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm not getting chosen. And so I went out and I got really drunk and did a lot of cocaine and had, a good time to like avoid the pain of like, I'm not going to be chosen. And so the year before, my father had died. And I didn't have any relationship with him, but that was also a huge foundationally shaken moment of the connection of not having a father, and then the fear of this rapture happening was just, it was a concoction that I wouldn't wish on anybody. And, that day came and went, and I just went off the deep end. I was like, oh my gosh, like, not only has my father died, not only did this rapture thing, like, I believed in it and it didn't happen. And, I had given up before then. So I really despise, I don't know if hate's the right word. I really despise people that go and say anything about end times because of that. Like, I have a very deep, visceral, maybe visceral is too strong a word, but I really do not like it when people come and talk about end times to me because of the thing that I went through. Now, spiritually and physically, the Father was completely ruptured in my life. Rick says, really? Sorry to laugh, but really? Wow, are you kidding me? Yeah, no. I don't think it's an uncommon story, and I'm sharing it very openly because it did happen, and now I'm just like, don't believe it, everybody. Don't believe the hype. Jane says, definitely can relate. Yeah, this is, unless you've been through something like I'm talking about, it's very difficult to explain how foundationally, like, your identity, your ego, your being is just completely shattered and on the floor. And there were moments where I would just draw the curtains. I remember at my lowest point, I just drew the curtains and I cried from like the deepest parts of my belly as I just cried. And I was like, God, like, I am at my lowest right now. I don't know what the heck is going on. I don't know up from down. I don't know anything. Like, I need you to come in and help me with this because I'm just going off the deep end. It was soul destroying. Yeah, Jane. It was very soul destroying. Like, of all the things that I've gone through in the past year, it doesn't even hold a bell to what I had gone through in 2011. Ryan Bradley, welcome. Look, you the only one that make it or break it. Yeah. Sorry to hear about your dad. Yeah, it was in 2010. I mean, it's gone, done and gone. So when I heard about that there's this kind of rise in all of these end times preachers saying that there's going to be a rapture, I just remember it was almost a decade that I was listening to this story of you're going to be raptured, you have to be chosen, you have to be within God's, you know, in the vessel. And there was there was a lot of people that would call in and say you can't know the day or the hour, and even though they were coming in and saying that, I still couldn't hear it. Okay, because I was on a lower timeline, I couldn't hear it. And a lot of it was because if you heard what I was saying in my story of me going to, the pastor and the pastor's wife and saying, there's something going on, like, I don't feel like I'm chosen by God. Like, I don't feel like I'm chosen by God. That there was already something within me that was dysregulated. My nervous system was like I didn't even know it at the time. And this is not something that I kind of realized until last year of how important the nervous system needs to be in a rest and digest, repair and regenerate, and not in the survival mode, which is what I was in when I was going to the preacher, when I was listening to the radio. I was just seeking, whatever comfort I could, but it was not long lived because my system just remembered your prey. You're being preyed upon, you're in fear, and all that kind of stuff. Limbic overload, yeah. So, yeah, 2011, I had my dark, it's like, talk about a dark night of the soul. That one was really, really, really difficult because it was, I talked about this a while back. It was a stage 1 of collapse. Like, I didn't know anything. Like maybe I had mini collapses, but at that point, it was like so much I couldn't even handle. With my earthly father and then my spiritual father, and it was like so crazy. Well, I hope you're over that now. Yeah, I'm Rick. I'm just bringing this story to the forefront because I want to have it be a testimony for people, and I'm very much well over it now, and that's why I can share it with candidacy with everybody. So that day came and went, and then it gets better, right? So even though I had that stage one collapse and that was really difficult, and I've had stage two collapses, and I've gotten really good at identifying when they come now. So now I'm, not quite to stage three, but I'm kind of I'm in limbo between the two of them. Hi, RK. My name is Amelie. I'm the host of Celestic Intelligence Podcast, and I live in Oregon, USA. All right. So, you know, it took a long time from 2011 till, a certain point where I could actually like maintain and hold that stuff. Very cool. Where I can hold myself like in esteem and be okay with going to the next stage. And, even in 2019, I had a collapse where I had to quit my job. Like I was contemplating it all the time. I was like, how do I get out of this? And had a little breakdown in my car, which I talk about in my book. And then decided, this almost decade long relationship, I have to end it. And I was terrified. I was terrified that everything was going to fall apart. But it was like I was barely holding it together. So, as I move through the years, I've gotten a lot more confident about how to go through these collapses. And we're going through a collective collapse right now. But at a certain point, there comes to be an end of the road where, whatever collapse situation that you're in, there does tend to be, it goes down and then something else has to populate in its place because nature abhors a vacuum. So that vacuum of space needs to be filled with something. And so something new does come in when you are finally able to accept that letting go and that surrender. And so part of this collapse cycle that I've just gone through is, as I'm looking forward, I'm like, okay, I've gone through this huge collapse this year, not just professionally, but, also personally. There's been a lot of things where it's been a literal burning of the dead wood of my own ego. And, as I'm looking forward, I'm like, it's just hopeful now. Like now I could just hope for the best things to happen. And they're going to. The shedding of skin, yeah. Look, honey, those things happen in life. Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. And people react to them in different ways based on the things that they've gone through. And I didn't expect my mother to pass away. That was a very shocking incident. That hurt a lot. That was very painful. I loved, loved, loved my mother. So, as this year is coming to an end, I'm seeing, all of these little seeds that I've planted over the years like come to fruition. I never thought that I would be an author. And here I am writing a book. Okay. Self-publishing. It's not going on Amazon, Kindle. It's not going on any other sites. I'm self-publishing my own book. And then after that book, I already have another book planned. And that one's also going to be self-published. I'm going to produce audiobooks and have it be available. There's other, ventures that I want to get into that I'm really excited about, that are very creative, that are very community driven, that will help people. And it I'm just really excited about that future of like what is going to happen next. And it's all of the experiences from the past that I'm able to bring into that, like the experience of those things into the future, so that it is even more successful than in the past. And I did mention that in October is my birthday and I'm going to be 42. And I think a lot of people, at least me, kind of get this idea of like, if you're not successful by age 20 or age 30, then you've lost it. Your like life is over. And that is complete opposite from all of the autobiographical books that I've read, of the biographies I've watched about people. Most people, once they don't hit their stride until they're in their mid 40s to 50s. So there's so much potential that you can have if you spend at least 10 years getting really good at something. So, from age 30 until now, I got really good in a profession. And now I can see all of the beautiful lessons that I learned from that. All right, let's see. Rick says, look, if you pray, it will happen. Yes, it will. Yeah, if you pray, if you say it, remember I said it was the year of refinement? I was like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? Like, next year be the year of connection. and the year of flowing, everything just flows really well. INSG Commando Security, Nara, Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh. Okay, sounds cool. Rick says, wow, that is really cool to know. Really. Look, do not believe it, really. I'm flowing right now. Cool, Bill. Congratulations on your goals. Thanks, Tommy. I do have to have this be a short one today because I am making fry bread. On the mic, super hot fire. Ryan Bradley says, I thought I lost the fire of art for nearly a decade, but inspiration is a hell of a thing. Now, as soon as I am done with work, I spend a few hours every day refining my art. That's awesome. Rick says, the older you get, the wiser you get. Don't forget that, please. And Fun with Cute Cushy says hi. Have a good night, pretty lady. Thanks, Bill. Okay. So don't let your age be holding you back. Figure out something that you are really good at. Get really good at it. If you're in your 20s or your 30s, just dedicate time to something that brings you, joy, or at least challenges you. And then when you hit, that 10 years, you're considered an expert in that at that moment. Okay. So whether it's in sales, whether, I work in procurement, supply chain, whether it is owning your own business, whether it is doing podcasts. I've been live streaming since 2018. Is it 2018? Yeah, 2018. So 2018, I started like doing these live demos on Facebook, and I was really terrified of being live. I don't know why I was. There was like one person, two people maybe watching, and slowly over time I built up an audience. But over time, you just kind of get really comfortable with being in front of the camera, being able to talk to people. And so I think this weekend I'll have a friend on to give his testimony of him having a really severe, it's going to be cool. I don't want to ruin it, but it's going to be a really cool story of how he overcame I don't know if he's necessarily diagnosed dissociative, but he'll tell the story. It's pretty amazing. So I really want to. Happy birthday! Yeah, it's not until the 24th, but pretty close. Eric says, "Lovely nails," and hi, hello, Eric. Thank you. I'm just free flowing today. So I hope you guys don't mind. I usually have like a script, but I spent so much time this weekend repositioning and redecorating, cleaning that I just was like, no, not today. Not today. Um, so there was a really cool I talked about the Newton's cradle experiment where if you have multiple Newton's cradles and you have them all, you know, you have them all with disequilibrium, just like clicking, clicking, clicking over the few minutes. Eventually, they all get onto equilibrium where they're all clicked together. The same thing goes with metronomes. And I saw this really great Instagram video where somebody had taken like all of these tiny metal pins, and they put them all in a box. And you can only imagine what it looks like with just tons of these tiny thin metal pins in a box. And so they throw them all in there and it just looks chaotic. Everything is, just crazy. And they just start shaking it. And over the few minutes, everything becomes uniform. Like there's rows of the pins that eventually settled. They're nicely, and they're still just shaking it. It's nicely organized and everything like that. That's what the end of the road is like. Like everything eventually comes to equilibrium. All the Newton's cradles start clicking at the same time. All the metronomes, even if they were at different speeds, start to go to the same speed. Everything starts to synergize. And that's what happens after chaos. So right now we can say that for a certainty that there is a lot of chaos in the collective. Politically, religiously, economically, we can see all this disequilibrium around us, and it's easy for us to see that and panic and say, "Oh my gosh, what do we got to do to preserve everything?" Like our first desire is to preserve the things. Very nice decor. Thanks, American Born. All right. Have a good rest of the night. I'm off to another chat to be cantankerous and blustery. I didn't hear when you mentioned the date. Nonetheless, have a solid day. Thanks, Ryan. Good to see you. So we can see all of that, and parts of us, like as soon as we experience that, we go into our amygdala mind where it's like survival. How do I preserve myself? How do I preserve the world around me so it doesn't change? Because anything that changes is a threat to my system, my own personal system, which is true. Like it can be like that. And then after that, though, like once you get to this point of, okay, there's chaotic things around me. However, I'm totally safe. I know that on the other side, at the end of this road, that everything is going to work out in my favor. Everything is going to be fine. Even though there's all this chaos, eventually it just figures a way to settle itself, and then I can continue on. So that's really where I'm going in my timeline, and I hope that you guys are equally in that same timeline where you can experience that the disequilibrium coming into harmony. And that's really where we're heading here. A lot of people are going to be experiencing these collapses. It's just going to happen. However, it's not the end of times. It's it's the end of a time and the beginning of a new time. You have to keep going. A lot of people just like say it's the end of time. This event is going to happen. just like with the end times rapture that I had to deal with in 2011 and was very shocking to my system because I had all these other things happening at that same time. It was a very chaotic period of time. But eventually, I was able to I was able to start a career. I bought a house. I had a yeah, really nice setup, even though eventually I had to tear that down too. But looking at that, it still is a really good example of how things will eventually find their equilibrium. And slowly over time, you're able to go through them faster, and then you can kind of expect them to happen, the chaos collapse, and then know that, yeah, the chaos collapse is happening. However, on the other end, it's going to be good. Wow, that's so sad. That's sad. Yeah, it's okay. It's completely okay. Like you said, it's a part of life, and everything happens in the way that it needs to happen. And from what I've experienced, it actually is so much better on the other side. Even though, I really had a desire to have my life be a certain way, I had to change course, and it's fine. Even this year I've had some really difficult things, and I'm like, at a certain point I was like, okay, this is happening. It's pretty terrible. I could panic about it. And maybe I did to a certain extent and isolated a little bit because I needed that time to like move through the energy. But at the same time, I was like, everything's going to work out. The problems that I'm experiencing today are going to be over. You know, tomorrow it really is another day. Another bright, beautiful day. So, really, you're so cool. You're cool, Rick. That's really what I wanted to talk about today. And then just kind of give a little blurb about the book that I'm writing, and then just let you guys know on the next phase of what I'm doing, because the book I'm writing right now is a prequel to the next book that I'm writing. So it all began earlier this year when I started redoing my podcast. I had started my podcast in at the end of 2022. My mom got sick, and I was like, I had no energy for anything else except for taking care of her. And so I quit doing my podcast. I had started a new job, and so it took a lot of energy away. And I was like, when I left that job earlier this year, I was like, I'm going to restart my podcast, and I'm going to do, whatever. So you can, I don't know what I started at, maybe like 7 or 9 or something like that. And I was like, I'm going to do it every week. Doesn't even matter if I have to, what I have to do, if I have to change time, whatever. I'm going to commit and keep in integrity with doing my once a week podcast, because it's important to me and it's valuable to me to bring forward these stories for people and have this record of it. Now, during that time, I was getting all of this this hashtag AI takeover in my feed. And so you guys can look online. I have this little what would you call it? I call it an investigation into the digital age, from analog to digital. What's going on? Let's start with defining the terms. Then let's look at what's AI chatbots. What are they all about? And just looking at different pieces of the digital space. So then I was like, I'm writing a book about this. There's so much information here. I want to dial it in. I'm going to write a book about this. So I had started writing a book about the digital age, and then I was incorporating a lot of nervous system work into it as well. And I was like, well, you know what? Maybe before this book, I have to, I just had this feeling. I was like, I have to write this book about the nervous system, of how important it is for and leadership doesn't necessarily mean like a business, okay? Leadership is your family. It could be a father or a mother with their children. It could be leadership within a friend group. You'll start to notice the patterns. So I'm just like kind of calling out these patterns, and it's becoming a lot more popularized, but I wanted to give the perspective that I was seeing from it. So then I started digging in and was like, oh my gosh, I have to write just a small, quick book about all of this information that I'm incorporating into the leadership and speaking into the leadership development sector and the DEI sector, which have phenomenally failed on many accounts. And, part of it is the methods that they're choosing, part of it is the approach that they take. A lot of people will take a mind over matter approach to an emotional problem. I call it throwing the logical spaghetti against the emotional wall. Like, that's really what it is. So I wrote a book. It's called The $8 Truth, exposing a $380 billion lie. So we spend $380 billion on DEI and leadership and development and have the worst results. Like, a lot of people don't even retain the information that they're getting from these, trainings that they're getting. Not that all of them are, but a lot of them are, failing to retain the information in it. So that's my first book. I really hope that it sets a new category in the leadership development field, and it's very much scientifically based. I did a lot of research on different research and case studies, and I incorporate that in there. And I right now it's pre-order for $5. So if you guys want to get a copy of it, it's an ebook. It's $5 right now, and then it goes up to 8 on the 8th of October. So if you want to be a part of that, and if you know anybody that is podcasting and likes to talk about this kind of stuff, please send me over their contact information or let them know to contact me. And I'd love to be on a podcast with them and have a chat about that. And after my book launches, I'm going to take a little bit of a break, and then I'm going to start back into my digital age book, because that one is going to be the creme de la creme of information. Like, I'm actually really excited about it. Like I said, I never thought I would be an author. And this year I've been called to write 2 books. Not this year, but one book this year and then another book next year on these really key topics. I mean, a lot of people talk about it, but I haven't heard anybody really smartly identify how to address AI. How do we address AI? How do we address technology? And how do we do it from a perspective where we maintain our humanity? John Smith says, I've written over 12 million lines of code logic, and what you're saying makes 0 sense. Tell us more about it. That is really crazy. Of code logic, and what you're saying makes 0 sense. About what? I hope you had a good day. Thanks, Kindred Angels. Tyler's here. Hi, Tyler. Good to see you. So, with the book that I'm writing first, how are you? I have a question. All right. It's an Ask Me Anything right now, so let's go. I really want to know what John Smith has to say. Like, what question that was. I'm new, so what do you do on your channel? Right now I'm doing an Ask Me Anything. Tell us what. Question is, how is Oregon really? Well, right now it's starting the rainy season, so there's a lot of rain. I'm just being a jerk, don't mind me. Oh, okay. I mean, I'm happy to field the questions against a real person if you're a real person. How was your day? My day was good. I started a new job in a public sector, and so I've been training and doing that. You seem nice. I may need to subscribe. Kindred Angels subscribed, and Jane also subscribed. So thanks, guys, for subscribing. I appreciate that. I'm really trying to hit 1,000 people by the end of the year. I think that'd be really having 1,000 subs at the end of the year is my goal. So we'll see if I get there. I don't know if I will or not, but um, yeah, ask me anything. And okay, so Skyflyer Zane says, okay, I'm curious. So if an evil witch shrunk me and teleported me into your stomach, how long would I be able to survive? Against the stomach acids or possibly drowning? How long? Okay, so I would say like 4 minutes. You're blessed, buddy. Thanks, Tyler. When did you start your YouTube journey? 2022. I just mentioned it. I started, I think it was in November of 2022 is when I started my first thing. And I was like, I did a stream about, I think it was my little, yeah, Hodgson Burnett's My A Little Princess is what it's called. And it's about Sarah Crew, who was born in India to a captain and ended up going to a finishing school or whatever they called them. And yeah, that's a great story. I love that story. I listen to it like 3 times a year. There's no air in the stomach. Yeah, that's why I said 4 minutes. I think it's 4 minutes. Yeah, Kindred Angels. That was a good question. It's very funny. Hey, I got to meet you one day. Yeah, maybe. That'll be fun. Okay, let's see. What's our next questions? I like your spirit. There's no air in the stomach. Mike claps. Blogger says big beautiful booby. Oh, okay. Sky Flyer Zane says I feel like I'd be able to survive in there longer than that. I'd try to escape. Well, I would think so. But with the stomach acids, the air, the lack of oxygen, the potential to drown, I don't think you're making it very long. How long do you think you'd make it? I don't think you'd make it that long. Whew. I'm excited. It kind of feels like a new season. Show me down. Wipe me down. Rick says that really depends. It depends on what. All right. Well, it's almost an hour, and I do need to go check on my. I tried to get out. Yeah. Like Magic School Bus style? Oh, I guess it's a witch, so I don't know. That teacher seemed very witchy with all of her science. All right. Okay. Well, with that, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys had a good time. I kind of told a really deep story that I was humiliated and embarrassed over for a long time. I didn't even talk about it. I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. And I didn't really have anybody to talk about it with, but now I feel a lot more mature and it doesn't really affect me anymore. So I'm happy to deliver that story to you. It's a very interesting story about rapture, and I have very strong feelings about, very strong testimony about how I feel about raptures when somebody's like, oh, it's on this date. I don't agree with that. I think that a rapture could happen at any moment, personally in your own timeline, because time is not linear. And that's the thing that I didn't understand when I was younger. Time is very cyclical and linear at the same time. Good times with the magic school bus. Yeah, wow, I'm impressed, really. I wonder if I could escape somehow. Yeah, I'm going to think about that, Skyflyer. I'd try anything I could from in there to avoid getting absorbed into you. No, I'm taking your essence. Thanks, witch. She a mean one. But yeah, I'll put the link into the comments if you guys want to get a copy of my ebook that is launching next week. I think it's next Thursday, if I'm correct. But it'll just go immediately to your email, and it's a pretty easy process. It's self published. And yeah, this has been really fun. I should do more Ask Me Anythings. Just come on and just talk random with people because it's really fun. I love the roll of the dice. You never know what you're gonna get, so it's pretty cool. But anyways, thank you guys for joining. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel, and if you haven't done so already, please like today's podcast. My name is Amle, and I am your host and founder of Celestic Intelligence and Celestic Intelligence podcast. I come on every Tuesday and talk about some sort of theme, and I try to do investigations into the digital age and also do emotional and social intelligence teachings and pepper those in. And hopefully, I can kind of find a new rhythm with everything else that's coming on that's new for me. But I really enjoyed having you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. And I will see you likely on the weekend. All right. Have a good night, Tyler. Bye, Kindred. Good night, Rick. Good night, Skyflyer. You didn't get absorbed by me today, but good to see you. All right, guys. Take care. Bye.